All right, let me actually close this door a little bit for you guys. And all right, let me actually close this door a little bit for you guys.
This is threading the needle. Here
we don't want that, we want this. And all right. Okay, so let me go ahead and share this. We're going to get a few housekeeping things in order just so I can get this going. So leave comments. You can put it in the chat or in the comments. I'll move them all over to the chat, to the comments at some point so that we have them for later. And let me go ahead and record. So this is our Miracles, Magic, and Coffee show. How to get over autoimmune conditions and anxiety conditions. That's the question. And this show is all about the answers. So we've got Dr. Tom Gimateo coming on in a little bit, and we'll look for him. Right now, I am going to put this in our ClickFunnels link so that you can have it. And even if you watch later. So let's do that. Click save. And I'll give you the link for that so that you can be on all of our shows. You can have access to it and know when they're on. And let's get this going here. Almost. We're all family, so I can be a little casual here. Okay, so it's all on there. And the place to find it is, let me just get the URL for this. It's at, I'll just put it in the YouTube link so you have it. Let me just grab this. So here, if you want to be, if you want to get the portal for where all these, you can have access to this kind of stuff, to our shows and other videos, there's an opt-in page for you. And I think it's at, I'm going to look at another one too. There's one called ralphhavens.com/true healing to get a whole bunch of resources. So let me put that one in here too, in the comments. And then let's get one more, just so you have all of this. Miracles. Yeah, ralphhavens.com/miracles, magic, and the symbol and coffee. ralphhavens.com/miracles, magic, and coffee will get you to this site as well. We'll put that in the comments. So you have all of that. Okay, so this, yeah, feel free to leave any comments. One of the things that happens with this show and with any of my videos, and you might have noticed it, I was just talking to my coach. I've got an awesome coach named Katie, and another awesome coach named Akbar. And I've got a couple of other ones too, actually. But I was talking to one of them, Katie, today, and she had the people that work with her were in the same room, and then she had to step out because she didn't think it'd be appropriate for me to be heard among all of them, although it is. I have no problems with anybody hearing anything I say. And she said her coworkers, the people working with her, said, "Oh my God, it feels so amazing when you're on the call with him." And she talked to me about how at the end of a long day of seeing clients, I used to see her at the end of her day. Now I see her at the beginning, but at the end of her day, and she'd be exhausted. And after she got off the call with me, she felt like she could rule the world, change the world. He had all this energy, everything was good. And one thing that happens with this work is you're soaking in it. You're soaking in it, whatever you want to call it. It's like spirit or energy, and we're always all in it, but we don't always realize it. And a lot of times life can really throw us some curveballs and feel crazy. You know, the anxiety and the fear and the rage can come up. And by being with us on these calls and these videos, whether you watch live or later, you can have a change simply from being on the call, from the chair you're sitting in right now. So what you can do to test it for yourself, anytime you see one of my videos, anytime you interact with me, anytime you open up an email for me, is to test something before you look, and just test how your neck moves and your shoulders, and twist your neck and body and back around, walk around, test things, and notice where you're at, what you feel. Because after the show, after the video, after the email, after you interact with me, with this work. It's this spirit, it's this energy, it's this thing. It's why I do 2.5 hours of meditation every single morning. You can retest again the same movements and see if it feels perhaps a little different. Are you a little looser or lighter or happier or freer or a little giddy or a little lightheaded or kind of dizzy, or is there something different? And then of course, over the day and the days and the week, you can notice what else is different. And you might think, well, you know, something changed, but how could it be from that video or that thing? But maybe it is. And so the cool thing is to notice how your life is since interacting with this work, with this stuff, with whatever this spirit stuff is. And I think it's why people like Yogananda used to travel the world to be around people that were doing deep meditation, because there's something that happens, kind of like a tuning fork that's vibrating. If you bring another tuning fork into the room, into the space, it starts vibrating at the same frequency. And we all feel that when somebody comes into a room and they just feel so excited and happy, and it's like it can lift the room. Or if you walk in a room and everybody is just talking about the state of affairs of the world and how awful things are and the fear and stuff, you walk into that room and it feels quite different, you know? So there's an energy exchange, there's a vibration, there's an osmosis thing. There's something that happens when you're around good energy, good people, not to really label it as good or bad, but kind of to label it as good or bad, because who wants to feel like crap? So one of the things that I used to do was I would drive up from San Diego to Los Angeles every 6 weeks on Thursday, I believe. And it was awesome because I would see do a little bit of work in the morning, and I was out of there for the day. And I was up to Los Angeles to get work done, getting integrated manual therapy done from Julie Cicino up in LA, and have 4 hours of treatment every 6 weeks. And what it did was it made me a better human. It took away mental, emotional, spiritual stuff, physical stuff that was in the way of me feeling good and being good and vibrating at a high level and being the best I could for my family. And actually, before I had a family, that was, you know, before I had Jen and the boys, but for my friends, for my life, for my clients, for my people that work for me, it made me a better human. And then one of the things I also did was every week we would do a version of that homework version of that integrated manual therapy, that medical intuitive work. And people, we get a few select clients. And that was when Jen started hanging around with me. And people would come to my house and we would do a hands-on version called neurofascial process, the one hand here, one hand there program. And let me go ahead and send Tom an invite just in case he didn't see it. And so people that came on a regular basis would, life would get better. Their husbands would quit yelling at them. They'd be happier. They would have less physical pains. And it was the homework version of this medical intuitive work. So that was another version of doing something that just makes me a better human. And so what I reached out to Tom today was, he's taken it to another level, this medical intuitive work, this stuff called integrated manual therapy. And I've also taken my work to another level than what we used to use. And part of it is to clear the stuff that's in the way of being happy, basically, and getting what you want in life and having the life where stuff works for you, whether you're an entrepreneur and you're trying to have a life where you don't have to go to work for somebody else, or you want to support your family, or you're a mom and your kids aren't doing well, or something's happening, or one of your people in your family has a physical condition. And it's like life can kind of get you anxious and get you full of fear and get you kind of like not on your A game. And so to clear that, there's different things that we can do. You know, there's physical things, there's stuff to clear the inner stuff, the mental, emotional stuff. There's all sorts of stuff we can do. And the idea with this work is to find out, what is your body protecting you from? Like, why are you having a hard time? What's really going on? Because when you can clear it, big changes. Kind of like when I tell the story of, I couldn't run for eight months, a spasm in my leg, and it wasn't going away. There's Tom. And yeah, it wasn't going away. And then I went and saw Julie in LA, and she put her hand on my foot and said it was my arteries in my heart. And she worked on me for 2 hours. and then I could run for the first time in 8 months. So it was, my body was protecting my heart. So for today, hey Tom.
Hi Ralph.
Good to see you.
Yep.
Yeah. So
how are you?
Great. I was thinking I was watching one of my one of the first guys I ever knew when Kim Burnham was at my house once. The way fate turned out, we always brought her in, and for 2 weeks she would be totally packed with clients, our clients, and she would work on people and she'd stay with us. But this one time, she had hardly any clients. All of a sudden, there was like hardly anybody. She used to say, when somebody takes my cheese, I'm out of here, like a little mouse. And so she was spending the couple of weeks researching stuff. And she found this guy, Brennan Bouchard, who's a big time guy now. And he was already big time back then, but he was a coach. And I'd never heard of the word coach except for football or track or something. And but she started following him. And so we watched his videos, and she bought some of his stuff and I bought some of his stuff. And we were watching his stuff and going down this road of coaching. And I was watching him just this week, and because we can see stuff, and you were a big part of teaching me how to see stuff. He had a lot of anxiety and fear, and his kidneys were just like locked in, and he was a little puffy, and it was red, and he was trying to tell people how to calm themselves down during these anxious times. And I was like, dude, you're not doing so well. So I reached out and sent him a little message, and I'll try to reach out to his admin and just see if he needs a little help. But in the past, I reached out to him, and because he kept having this problem where he would have accidents and have head injuries and then not be able to think right. And he did lots of research and lots of stuff and figured out how to get himself back together. And he makes a lot of money and has a lot of impact and does a lot of good in the world. But I think he could use our work. And so I'm reaching out to him again. But I thought today, with the way things are, and you see so many people in such fear. I mean, it is crazy. I put a simple post out because somebody I know is going through a really tough time. She lives alone, and she's done some major work on herself, but she's getting very, 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 very lonely and talking about ending it all. And so I reached out on Facebook and I said, hey, you guys, anybody in this area that, and she doesn't want to wear a mask because of other past traumas. And anybody that doesn't wear a mask, that's okay with walking around and talking to somebody and just having a friend. And I got a bunch of people I got some people that reached out and just blasted me like, you're a Trump supporter and how dare you try to kill everybody. And I'm like, holy cow. And then I had my friends that were like on the other side, like, how dare you attack Ralph? And there's all this like anxiety and fear and rage. Yeah. And I thought, well, let's do a show on what Dr. Tom thinks about that and how to help that.
Yeah, there are many things that are going a little bit more crazy as we get through this process, and it feels like, the elections are going to start to have media throw a lot more chaos out in there. So going back to we talked about this earlier, I feel that everybody is stuck, and we call it the blue-eyed syndrome of looking at media a lot, and it really perpetuates a lot of anxiety and stress in people's bodies. And we had a discussion last night on somebody having knee pain, and we really looked at her posture, and it felt like the organ in our body we use is called the adrenals, which supports our stress, good or bad or indifferently, for good stress and bad stress, but it's there to produce this chemical called cortisol. And we use that to help with all the stress hormones of the body. And, you can go and run and get your enkephalins and your a lot of things up and helpful in that area. But so they're all produced in the adrenal area, which is right above your kidneys. And they get super irritated sometimes. And in Chinese medicine, the kidney meridian is in charge of the adrenal glands, and it starts at the in between your first and second, close to your first and second toe, then runs up the arch of your foot, then runs up your ankle, and ends up in this area over here. And we find that a lot of people are having super adrenal stress. So it could affect your blood pressure, it can make you dizzy, it can make all your ligaments really stretched out and sore at the same time. So
interesting. It can make your ligaments stretched out and sore. So it's like,
yeah,
it's like how does that happen? And, that's interesting. I mean, it's not important to know how it happens, but that's an interesting combination.
yeah.
Your ligaments looser.
So and then we got the too much screen and computer time giving us that blue-eyed syndrome or the blue energy syndrome. So I think one homework that we could help everybody do is just even taking their hand, one hand on their heart and one hand on their eyes, and hanging out there for 10 minutes once a day. And the next one would be heart to the middle of your third eye, in the middle, separate from the two eyeballs themselves. And we would be able to take somebody's energy down, their anxiety and stress components.
So 10 minutes like this, and then it's like this.
Yeah. And you'll just take a breath, and if you have trouble sleeping at night, that's a good way to just go to sleep at night. Right.
Yeah.
And how to support the adrenals is getting 8 hours of sleep, and try not to have electrical screen right in your front of your face, like a computer or an iPhone or something. You should even rest even longer than that before you go to bed. Like a TV screen is a little bit better, but just that all causes anxiety there. And then in the adrenals, one good adrenal support is called Ashwagandha. And our GI Regen from IMT Wellness has a nice mixture of ashwagandha and a couple other things that really help calm down the nervous system.
That's a really nice program. And one of the things that actually I think it was Brendan Bouchard that told us years and years and years ago. He said one thing he uses is he starts his day and he doesn't look at his phone or his email for hours. And he instead does what he's already planned he wants to do that's important to him for the first part of the day. And then at a predetermined time, he checks all of his emails at once and goes through it. But he's not just doing, he calls his inbox, that's other people's problem and agenda. And so why go straight to that first thing in the morning? And the other thing that I have found useful is just to tell people to at night, turn off your phone, not even just airplane mode, but turn it off and just stick it in another room so that it's not the first thing you look at. And also, so it's not on all night right next to your heart or your,
Right.
So
charge it in another room. And chamomile tea or Earl Grey tea are two good essential oils to put into your system, or herbal.
And Earl Grey is actually a little caffeine, so it can be a really nice pick you up and also calming.
Yeah.
It's got something in it. I forgot what you called it. What's the thing in Earl Grey that's so good?
It's a type of citrus called bergamot.
Bergamot. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's an Italian orange, and that has a very calming effect to the body too. Wow,
that sounds awesome. Everybody might actually feel a little bit better just because Tom, his energy is so centered and calm. Yeah.
Well, I know you've been away for a week, Ralph. And
yes.
Last week on the East Coast was a little bit crazy because we had that tropical storm that came through, and our area, half the state got popped out of electricity. And even today, there's a couple thousand people still 8 days later.
Yeah, I have a client in New Jersey, and they were out for like 4 days or something.
Mm-hmm. And it's been overwhelmingly hot at the same time.
That's not good. I remember when San Diego had a couple of days where the whole city went black. It was quite interesting because everybody came out and sat on their porches and walked around and met their neighbors. And there were some businesses that were open just for just give you stuff, like kombucha and stuff. And it actually felt kind of nice to be walking around without any electric on.
Right.
But in the hot, kind of another story.
Yeah. So there's been a little bit of chaos in this whole system.
Yeah. I was doing something with Baden fell asleep on the couch, and Jen had her hands free and she was getting ready for bed, and I was sitting on the couch, and I'm like, I always want to work on somebody, so I did the neurofascial holding that you guys showed us to Baden's ankles, and it went so big. It was like, whoa. And I almost thought, and by big, I mean his body was going through really nice changes. And I remember the first time I found that, I was early to one of the intensives in Chicago, and you and Sharon were there working on somebody, and Jane was there, and you guys put me, I'd never seen neurofascial holding. You put me on the client's ankle. It was a therapist, and I did the little technique. I didn't know what it was, so I'm hanging out, trying to act like I'm doing, like, I better try to do something important. So I'm like using skills and stuff, because Sharon and Tom are right there, like, you know what I'm doing. But after, it was Jane was actually getting treatment, and she goes, man, Ralph, that felt so good. And then later you guys showed us neurofascial holding, and that's a technique that I love doing. And I love the NFP, like that's one hand here, one hand there stuff. There's another one for all the joints that we do for different things. And there's one for the adrenals, I believe, is the left wrist. I don't know if you want to talk about that, or if people can do
Sure.
that themselves, or if I love that technique. It's so simple.
Yeah. So just even if you put your hand on your left wrist, and you're going to just actually just distract a little bit with it. So you come in here and you're going to just pull towards your fingers, but you're not going to pull enough that you're moving your whole elbow. You're just going to give enough tension, if we able to leave our elbow on our lap, and then just pull. And as soon as the elbow starts to move, you back off, maybe a little bit of pressure, so you don't have that, but you still have a stretch in the wrist.
Just a little bitty bit, yeah.
Yeah. And that sensation is, we get into holding on to grip, like we grip something for fear. And it's a nice reduction of fear process by doing mostly the left side, but even the right side can be done to do that at the same time.
Yeah, the left side is, I think, adrenals or something like that, maybe, and then the right side, maybe, is it toxicity? I forgot.
I think you're correct. It's been a while.
Yeah, I love those things. I love the simple stuff. Some of the stuff you guys have shown us, like something that I realized I couldn't really show clients very easily was, I worked on somebody's hip, and the way I did it was I put one hand on their colon on the left side and the other hand on their neck, because that's the plate for plate therapy. It's an energetic thing. And I did that, and it really loosened up her hip. And she's like, oh my God, how'd you do that? So I said, okay, well, there's this like energetic plate, and you'll feel it. And then you feel for the little corner that's wiggling, and you just resist it a little bit. And she's like, oh, never mind. So it's like a lot of the stuff that you use looks like nothing. Some of it is, you just put your hand in a place and just don't even think about doing anything. But other stuff is like a little thing, like you just here, but just a teeny distraction, that extra little bit. Yeah. Or some of the more advanced stuff you feel for energetic stuff.
Yeah, it's really trying to stay and appreciate, a lot of the therapies out there are, I call them like whack-a-mole, where they stress out the system a lot. The new phase of that is one of them is, depending on who's teaching it, like dry needling, where they go in and take an acupuncture needle and really dig into the tissue. I think is really neuroaggressive. And I think you remember, Ralph, that when we were teaching Dr. Jones strain counter strain points,
yeah.
When Sharon first learned how to do it, he would come up with this little trigger point, and he would describe how to bend the elbow or the arm, and you had to do it very specifically, 10 degrees this way, 5 degrees that way. And when you got the magic button, that little trigger point would just disappear.
Yeah, here's some of the stuff from a guy that took some of his work. It's not, I also have Jones's book, but you would find these little spots and then press on them, and it would hurt. And then you would do this position.
But what we found is, especially because we were working with more, that's okay in the normal person. But when you got to do it with children that had cerebral palsy, or somebody that had a brain injury and their nervous system was really stressed out to begin with, it would, just by irritating the system, it would be like 100 bees let out. So you sort of were acting your therapy by poking the next bee sting type of thing. So we really found, and we started to appreciate how soft sometimes you have to go into something and not so hard.
Yeah, that was so cool to know, because you didn't have to like push on that thing and try to find the hurt spot. You could just put them in a position and feel for where everything relaxed, and kind of like doing this thing till you just have a certain feeling. And I remember when I first got into the work with you guys, I was doing a lot of the craniosacral and the visceral manipulation, and even the Institute of Physical Art, which is like a Rolfing based thing with PNF, this exercise thing. And it was, I remember Sharon saying, I don't know what to tell you, because, you know, all those techniques have a lot of component of something's tight, and kind of in a gentle, very therapeutic, smart kind of way, force it to get untight. And integrated manual therapy is like, no, how about if we just take all the stress out of the system and let the body unwind it? And she was saying, I don't know what to tell you about all those systems that try to force things, deep tissue massage and all that stuff. Because she says it doesn't really, it doesn't go with this. Because if you do the techniques that we use, it gives you more access to deep structures. And so you definitely don't want to go dig into somebody's back after you've opened up all these protections and you've worked on I was talking about my heart.
And it's a new level of appreciation of, it's almost like, if you were a wine connoisseur, you could take a glass of wine and say, oh, this is from France, or this is from this part. Another person says, I can't tell the difference between a $6 bottle of wine and an $80 bottle of wine. So as you get to appreciate the tissues more and know where they are. So my very strongest suggestion in any body work therapy is, if the therapist or practitioner is always going back and repeating the same sequence, and you're not continually improving, then that should be a question mark of, are we just putting a different type of Band-Aid on it, or are we taking a different type of aspirin by doing those two things? And,
nothing wrong with getting a massage every week, but if you've got a significant problem and a year later you're still getting the same massage and it's not really changing your thing, you might want to try something else too. I was on a podcast yesterday, amazing guy, and he does a lot of stuff with astral traveling, and he has lots of people on his show that have a lot of empathy, a lot of empaths. But he said, what do you do with the people that have so much, they're around people and they just feel their pain, and so many people, I tell people maybe take a 3-month elimination diet and get away from the news. But yeah, because some people, they seem like they're so sensitive to feeling other people's stuff. And what about that?
It comes in a number of different flavors. So when I hear people saying we do have people that have empathy and can feel other people's pain, but how do you keep yourself grounded? So a lot of people, I feel, that have those pieces aren't learning to know how to ground themselves, first of all. Okay. There was a doctor who invented zero balancing, which was a bodywork technique. Fritz Smith was his name. And he came in with a very interesting way that helped Sharon and I understand interface. Okay. So, and with that, this is something we teach in IMT, is that you should be able to, if you were, the exercises is, we have students just sit there with their hand up like this. And then we have somebody else come in, another person, and they start walking towards the hand, and we ask them where do they feel it? And some people will say, well, I feel it, at 4 inches or 5 inches, sometimes like a mile out sometimes.
Yeah.
And we do have these energy layers where we'll pick up some stuff, but we try to say, okay, do you feel like you're leaking your energy, or are you holding it back in the whole process? So we'll go through And what Fritz Smith said is you want to just be at interface. You don't want to be able to put yourself in somebody's body and lose some of your energy there. So there's a lot of healers that have a lot of heartache because they open themselves up too much. So we have a whole technique called acceptance of other people's energies.
Mm-hmm.
And in our diagnostics, it feels like people who get influenced by other people's energies, they have Swiss cheese in their field, and it can go in deeper and deeper into the whole process. So teaching people to be inside the body and not outside the body. So some people wear their heart way out 3 feet and they can pick up, and other people are using medications and drugs, so they're not in the body at all. So you have these big radar antennas of people that don't want to be in their body because they're in too much pain. And you have other people having holes in their body so they can feel it at the same time. And it's really about teaching that person to be aware of where their essence and their presence is. In that hole.
That's a great idea. Yeah, it'd be something just to start working on ourselves, even if you're not used to these kind of ideas. Just like, where are you?
Yeah. And there's been a number of people using the word grounding and grounding technology a lot of the time. And they have grounding sheets where you can actually have copper wire and you go plug it into the ground of your house, or they run a copper wire right outside and they dig it, they put it into the tree roots. And that has brought up a lot of health. I had the opportunity growing up. I was a competitive swimmer. I became a lifeguard. I never liked shoes, and I had the opportunity never to have to wear shoes a lot of times. And you know, if you look at most people nowadays, even the rubber soles on their shoes is disconnecting them from grounding energies. So we have a lot of. I always try to choose for my dress shoes, loafers I wear in the office. I always look for the leather bottom, and it's harder and harder to find a leather bottoms shoe. And I feel everybody, when you take the plastics and you really get disassociated over time.
Yeah, so Ben, our little boy Ben, not so little now, 8 years old. He loves Nikes, but he takes them off all the time. He walks barefoot all year long and runs barefoot, and he's got tough feet, and Baden too, but Baden wears shoes a little more. But yeah, it's so amazing.
So I went to, I'll just share this for everybody, that I went to a meditation retreat for a week, and we did lots of different types of meditation, and we would sit from 6 o'clock in the morning and until 6 o'clock at night in different forms of meditation. Sometimes you sat, sometimes you stood, sometimes you laid down. And about every 45 minutes, they would do a walking meditation. And all these big meditative people would take off their socks and walk the meditation. And it was on a beautiful bamboo floor. And if there was somebody lying down there, I could actually feel the heat in the wood and the floor sometimes. And then I hadn't walked around barefoot for maybe a year or two. And then we started walking. And I realized that when I was in my body and all aware, there wasn't a pebble that I could step on that would hurt my foot. My foot would actually mold to the ground if I was present. And as soon as I got thinking about something else, it'd feel like attacking my foot.
That's interesting. Yeah, because Ben can run on pointy gravel rocks like no big deal.
And again, if you're in total awareness, your foot's supposed to be able to adapt to all those things. And then, you get, when you're not aware and you're running around, that's when it gets you and spikes you up. So
when you're in your body and present, that's interesting. What, do you use or recommend, or what have you found useful for, there's probably different things for different people, but meditation, like, is that something that, what do you think about that?
There's so many different forms out there. I have some students that love to do a chanting meditation. Some just go out and watch the sunrise in the morning or the sunset at night. I consider all those meditations too. Walking and communing with nature is so. I feel it's what there's so many different personalities out there.
Yeah.
Listening to music for some people, they're all states of, can I hear beauty or see beauty and get connected to it, right? So it's really an individual type of a practice to say this is a good meditative, and not one's better than the other either.
Yeah, lots of ways up the mountain. I remember Richard Bartlett in the Matrix classes, he said they used to like come in before the class and they would sage the room and they would clear the evil stuff and they would bring in good stuff and they would do all this stuff. And then and he loves rock and roll music. And then they found that if they just put on old time classic rock and he got his guitar up there, even if it was not plugged in, and ran around playing air guitar for the hour before the, just as they're setting everything up, and then started the session like that, the room felt great. And I remember one, and they didn't have to do all that setup. I remember one time I was hoping the art class in IMT in San Francisco would be changed. We would change the week because the Beta Breakers race was going to be in San Francisco. So I told Sharon, I said, yeah, there's going to be 100,000 runners in San Francisco. We might want to change the date. And she said, oh, wonderful. The energy is going to be amazing. And I'm like, but it's like, there's some energy. It doesn't have to, meditation and feeling that doesn't have to be like sitting on a mountain with like-minded people. It can be in the middle of 10,000 people watching a great concert, or it's like different for different people for sure.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the thing that makes your heart sing is a good way to have some meditation and get you fresh air. I think I don't feel that like video games and getting in your phone is a meditative state. It's especially with all those blue-eyed things and the killing and the pathology of all those pieces sometimes. Yeah,
I remember there was an Apple iPhone ad years ago, and it had a little kid. He was probably 8 years old, looking at his computer screen, and I was looking at him going, "Oh my God, he's intoxicated." He literally looked intoxicated, and I'm like, "That is not good."
Right.
It was just interesting.
Yeah, that's that blue-eyed energy that's coming out and through that. So what we started with, and just to remind everybody, just going back and putting one hand on the heart and the eyes, and looking to try to put your hand on the back of your eyeball and scrubbing them a little bit. And then the second one is to come in right in the bridge of the nose and let that limbic system, because you get really beady with everything at the same time. So the other issue is that it's a mechanical issue. If I had my cell phone up here and I'm reading it, that's harder on my eyes than bringing it down like this. So when we're lying in bed and we got the cell phone up here and we're reading like this, that actually stresses the eye and the pattern more because of the way the bones are structured in our head. So
limiting the cell phone, maybe not at night, maybe not first thing in the morning, taking a little break from that. You talked before about the eye exercise too, where do you look at the sun just when it's at the beginning or end of the day, or do you just look at the sky with the daylight and then move your head? How does that one work?
Try to find the sun without any clouds in front of it. And you're going to keep your eyes closed and stare directly up into it. You get a nice big orange dot on the back of your retinas, and you start to move it back and forth and allow the warmth of that orange spot to really massage the inside of your eye.
For just like a few seconds, or?
Well, you're keeping your eyes closed, and if you haven't done it before, it could be quite painful to do that. But after a while, 5-10 minutes really feels good.
Even if it's not just in the morning, and even it's like 10, 11 o'clock in the morning, or 12 or 2.
Yeah. Whenever you can get there.
Okay.
We don't have the perfect, in New England, you may get a half hour sometimes of pure sunlight in a day. So
yeah, us too in the wintertime. So, well, this is awesome. A lot of really good tips. I'm going to write it up and then put it in that portal that I send everybody, if that's on our email list, about our weekly show. and so, yeah, if you want more information from Tom, he can see a lot of stuff. He's helped me many over the years, literally saved my life. And yeah, so info@imtwellnesscenter.com. You can also find imtwellnesscenter.com and go read all about his stuff. He's got lots of things. He can send you an email every so often with some good stuff, and he'll talk to you, 15-minute consult, and tell you what he sees and what could be useful for you or your family, whether you live on the East Coast or not. And there's practitioners all over the world that we can hook you up with. And yeah, and then you can find me at autoimmuneanswers.com or all over the place. Just look for me. And anything else you want to leave everybody with today, with all great tips, anxiety clearing?
Take a breath, take a walk, and it's still going to get a little more scary before it gets better.
And there's going to be there's something good going to come of it. I'll leave a little story. We're going to homeschool, and we've got a couple of families that are going to do that with us because we didn't want to. We want to keep our kids out of all the fear-based stuff that's happening, and we thought, well, let's do this. And Jen did a prayer and was asking who helps us with this, and serendipitously, Grace Spirit, this person found us that her thing was somebody that can. One of our kids in the families that has special needs. She works with her, but she's out of work, and she's working on a master's program, and her goal is to work for the micro school and develop a really good way to empower kids. And so this just fell in our lap, and Jen is going to be the overseer of this thing. And she was like, I wonder what I'm supposed to do with my life. I know I'm raising two kids, but all of a sudden this gift popped in that wouldn't have happened because of if it wasn't for these obstacles. So it's like crazy chaos, and it's going to get weirder maybe before it gets better. But I would say look for maybe some gift in all this too.
Yeah, I agree with you.
Okay, Tom, so good to see you. And yeah, info@wellnesscenter.com, and I'll see you next week, hopefully.
Okay, have a good week.
Thanks, man. Bye now. Okay, you guys, that was Dr. Tom Giammatteo, one of my big time teachers, imtwellnesscenter.com. And yeah, if you want more from us, autoimmuneanswers.com. There's a whole bunch of free resources at ralphhavens.com/true healing. And I'll see you guys next week. And also I'm going to be on a podcast with a podcast, look for it today, Beyond Homo Sapien with Paul. So I'm looking forward to that, and I will see you guys next week. Bye now.